Okay, so you have an idea and it feels exciting and you want to move on with it, but should you actually move on and build an MVP or should you just leave it? Let's dig into it. Whenever I get an idea, no matter how big, small, realistic, or crazy that idea might be, I always follow the same little system that I've set up. Basically, I start by saving it, then I sleep on it, then I check my gut feeling, and then I check how can this actually be distributed, and then I rank it, and then I also check, will this be harder not to build than to build? And if that is a yes, then that is a strong signal to actually build it. So let's go through them one by one. All right, so first, when I get an idea, I always save it immediately. And I'm using the Todoist app for that. They have a desktop and a mobile version, and I also use that anyway for the daily to-do list, right? So that's why I use that one for saving my ideas there. And I think it's very important to always remember to save your ideas immediately so that you don't suddenly forget them. And for me, it's honestly really easy to get new ideas. I get new ideas every week. I don't know if it's like that for everybody, but I at least am getting quite a lot of ideas every week, right? And I usually get them when I'm doing stuff, right? So let's say I'm out surfing or taking a shower or I'm going for a walk. That's when I usually get the ideas actually. And sometimes if I don't have access to the Todoist app for some reason, then sometimes I also just send myself an email. So for instance, if I'm just about to go to sleep, and I get an idea, then I tend to send myself an email so I remember that idea, and then the next morning I save it to the Todoist. And I think it's very important to actually do that because if you get an idea and you're just about to go to sleep, if you then don't save it, you usually forget it the next morning, right? So the next morning you will not remember what that idea was, right? And then you feel annoyed about that. So that's basically why I do that. Okay, and next up, I sleep on it. And the reason why I do that is basically because I get very easily excited. So whenever I get a new idea, I think like, okay, this is $1 billion idea and I just have to build it and then it will just sell itself. And usually it's not like that. It's never like that actually. So that's why I now started sleeping on it because sometimes the day after, right, you just have a different perspective on whatever idea you got the day before, right? And honestly, sometimes actually an idea doesn't survive the night. So the next day, when I then look at the idea and rethink it, then I'm like, actually, it's not a good idea. So that's basically why I started doing that. And if the idea then survived the night, then I start to do a little bit more research, not a lot, maybe like 10, 20 minutes max, right? And so I usually look for competitors, of course, right? And now with AI, it's actually really easy, right? So it's very easy to just prompt ChatGPT and ask for, well, put in the idea and then ask for competitors for that idea. And then usually it actually states 3 to 5 competitors. And remember that having competitors, I find it actually good, right? Because that means that there's actually a market there, right? So what I then do is that I usually then go and look at those competitors' websites and just check their pricing, check how they actually build it, stuff like that. And then I kind of start to think, okay, that's cool that there's actually a market for this because these guys, maybe they're like 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, I don't know. But is there then another way you can build kind of the same thing but in a slightly different way? So that's usually how I do my research. And after having done a little bit of research, then I check my gut feeling again. So am I actually still excited about this idea? Is it something that I see myself working on for at least a couple of months, half a year, maybe more? Do I believe it in myself? Because if I don't, then I know that it will fail anyway, right? So you have to be excited about what you're about to build, I would say. And you can only figure that out if you check your gut feeling, right? So how do you feel about it? Are you excited about it? Do you believe it in yourself? And then if I do, then I move on to the next step. Next up, I check for distribution opportunities because I always know that I can build it. That's not the hard part. Building it is the easy and the comfortable part of it, but that's not the hard part, at least not for me. There's always the distribution. So how am I actually going to sell this? How am I going to get users, right? So basically what I do is that I think through where would these users for this product that I'm about to build maybe hang out. Is that on Discord? Is that on Slack? Is that on Facebook? Is that on Reddit or somewhere else, right? And then I basically go through and try and find those areas where they're hanging out to see kind of like what the communication is there. Has there been other kind of launches recently for similar products? Do I believe that I can launch in those areas and actually succeed? So for instance, for Naughty Mugs, I saw that there were a lot of Facebook groups and they were very keen on buying and selling from each other. So that's why it was relatively easy then to launch there. Of course, first I built the MVP, but then I basically launched there and then I got the first, 50 users at least, right? So you can kind of see it on the way that they communicate with each other usually, right? So is it a very aggressive kind of tone that they're writing about towards maybe new products, or are they more open, polite, and so on? And for me at least, that's usually a good sign. Similarly, when I launched Ninja Boss on Reddit, I could also feel on the Reddit thread there that they were very open for new ideas, and they basically just wanted ways to help them monetize their podcast, right? So when I was then posting about that I could help them make money, then they were super open about it, and I also there I think got at least 30, maybe 50 signups on the first day, right? So you have to kind of go through the areas where they hang out and then kind of think through if you believe that it would be easy to basically get users to start at least signing up and testing out your product. And then I start ranking the idea, and I don't overcomplicate this. I use a relatively simple formula, and I will link to the sheet in the description below. But basically I do this. So I write down what's the actual idea in just 1 or 2 sentences. What kind of business is it? Usually it's marketplaces, but it could also be a SaaS service, whatever. Where could I promote it, as we were just talking about before, right? So I list down at least 2 places, like a Reddit community, a Slack group, LinkedIn, whatever fits, right? Then I look for 1 or 2 competitors, and I give each competitor a score from 1 to 10, 10 meaning that they're really tough competitors. I then calculate a rough average of the competition strength, and finally I rate how fun this would be for me to work on, also from a 1 to 10. And then I add it all up and give it an overall score. So that's basically how I do it. And finally, and probably also the most powerful question I then ask myself is, would it be harder for me not to build this than to build it? And if the question there is yes, then I definitely move on. And it's actually a quote that I picked up from Tim Ferriss. I believe that he always does that whenever he tries to decide if he should move on with one of his ideas or not. Because think about it, right? If it's actually harder for you not to do it than to do it, that's a huge signal that you should do it no matter what. Because it means that you are super excited about it and you believe that this is going to work. And that is usually the most important part of an idea and about building and believing in that you actually believe that this can succeed. That's probably the most powerful signal you can get. But I'm sure that there are many other ways you can do it whenever you get an idea. This is just the way that works for me. And if you have another way of doing it, then please post a comment. I would love to hear from you. And always, if you found this video interesting, maybe useful, then give it a like and maybe also subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. See you. Bye bye. Ciao.